yeah, say Stephanie as well. Hi, Stephanie. So say hello in the chat, and also put your questions in the chat as well. And it helps us when we're scrolling down if you put question in capital letters and then put your question, just so that it kind of, you know, I can easily see a question rather than the sort of chit chat that you might get into. So yeah, do feel free to chat to each other in the chat.
I don't actually need the glasses. I just think they make me look better.
Yeah. Well, now you look very Virgo.
Oh dear. There we are. Brilliant. Yeah, it's slowly filling up.
You're Scorpio, aren't you?
I am indeed. Yes, for all me sins. Yeah.
But you've
Scorpio got with mixtures of Virgo and Leo.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't go there. We really don't go there, Dougie. No.
Lucky Lynn.
You know. And then we got mixes of Gemini and a lot of Pisces too. Which,
and what's your life path number, Gordon? I can't remember.
7.
Oh, 7. You know, I
knew you were trouble, she said.
Well, they are.
Yeah,
but I tell you what, 7s are they're my favorite people. I get on, so all of the people that I feel that I really resonate with seem to be 7s. And but I also have to say that sort of like the people that I've you know, that have caused me the most trouble are also 7s. So they're kind of like, you know, they're kind of like my favorite and my enemy.
You got it. Yeah, that's it. There we are. That's something.
But I think yeah. But yeah, so I mean, well, I'm so looking forward to getting into all of this, because yeah, I mean, my life,
a nice light-hearted conversation. A bit of banter, a bit of involvement.
So we've got 10 people here now. We've got Nicola, we've got Mira, Una. I love that name. I think that's Irish, Una. Yeah, but say hello in the chat if you can. I can't because I won't be able to see you all if you're kind of going off screen. Right, so should we officially start?
Yeah, you can do. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more in, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, people can come and go as they wish.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I
mean, you know, me and Gordon can talk the hind legs off a donkey. We never have 5-minute conversations, do we, Gordon?
No, unfortunately, no. There we are. I think Pisces is going to be Pisces must be coming up for review. I just made some notes here. I was looking at some numerology. 7 refers to Pisces as well, so within the astrology. So there we are. Anyway, cool. Pisces keeps reoccurring, but I'll leave it to you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So hello everybody, and thank you for joining us. So this is quite exciting for me because it's my first proper kind of interview. My first proper interview on Zoom, and it's
like on TV last week, so thank you very much. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I've done the soul chats with Minty where we just kind of thought, well, let's have a Zoom chat and just make it public. But this is my first kind of like, I want a particular guest on to sort of interview and stuff. So thank you for coming and being my guinea pig. And yeah, so what we're going to do today, so tonight we're going to talk about astrology and numerology. It has a way of kind of having an insight into what our soul's blueprint is. So what we decided as souls, when we decided we're going to go and have a ride on that Earth game again, because that was really thrilling.
Oh wow, was that good?
Yeah. What do we want to do? What do we want to learn? What skills do we want to bring in? What sort of challenges do we want to bring in? What do I want to grow? How do I want to grow as a soul? So then we kind of like, we pick our date of birth and we pick on our names. And yes, we do actually pick our names. We kind of like basically kind of influence our parents to pick our names for us. But all of this thing it's like an energy signature, isn't it? So it's like we're picking ingredients of certain frequencies and energies to bring into our kind of our energetic template for the life that we want to experience this go round, this incarnation. So Gordon. So Gordon, for anybody that doesn't know him, he's a multi-talented bloke. You know, he's a pilot for firstly, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
In the kind of like more 3D world, you're a pilot, which is pretty far out anyway. But you're also an astrologer, and you're a numerologist, and you're a tarot reader, and you're a spirit medium, and you do a lot of platform work, don't you? That's kind of where I first met you. I went to a psychic evening, and there was about 4 or 5 psychics that came round the tables, and you were the only.
Oh, was it a supper? Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you were the only one, Gordon, that I thought, my God, he's got something. There is like, you know, it just felt like you were the only one.
Wasn't it? That was in the restaurant in Malvern. Yes, that's right.
So you stuck in my mind really as the person that just seemed like something. You were tuned in, you were channeling, you know, straight information through. You weren't kind of like working so much with your intuition or part guessing. You know, it was just like an open channel. You know, the information was coming straight in. So you really sort of you stood out to me that night, and I think it's about a year later I came, and when you were in Evesham and you had your shop.
That's right,
yeah, and you started doing development circles, and you did some courses, and you did a numerology course, and that's really, oh my God, I mean, that, you know, when it's amazing when you look back and you see like you can see the road where you've traveled, can't you? And it's like those certain points on your path where you think, oh my God, that changed my direction. That is part of why I'm here where I am now, and that was definitely coming to your numerology workshop, finding out my own life path number, which, you know, just so many things fell into place once I found out I was a life path 11. And, you know, 5 years later, I'm kind of like, I'm really finally stepping into that. So, but also you do all those amazing things, but also you've kind of started to trance channel as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we do that in the private. Yeah, that's for sure.
So, and so I've been lucky enough to have you trance channel for me, and again, that was another amazing sort of experience. So I'd you know, I'd really love to push you to do that more. It was incredible, but I understand how hard it is to hold that energy with that sort of trance channeling. You know, yeah, it is difficult. So you kind of got all of these bag of tricks, haven't you? You've got your numerology, your astrology, your tarot cards, you know, your spirit mediumship work. I mean, you know, you're just multi-talented.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't sort of describe it. I suppose you can, but I mean, it's evolved over, you know, just touching 60 soon. So it's evolved over 30, 40 years. So it has been it's been a gradual journey. I mean, astrology, I can remember trying to start astrology in my 20s and having these books, and you sit in these books and you just could not make head nor tail of it. And what I found is that things seem to have come in when they've needed to come in. So it started with cards. That's what it started with. It started all with tarot cards. And you find, I dare say, a lot of people in this room have had the same sort of experience. And I would say, do get involved, you know, do chuck questions, etc., because this is really sort of an open forum. It started, I suppose, with cards. You can go back even further. You get the feeling of wanting to do something but don't know where you're going to go. And I think it's the same with anything. It's like if you feel you want to be a beautician or something, you start thinking about it because it's really almost pre-programmed in, and then gradually the doors start to open. When they're ready, people come to you and your path takes off no matter what you need to do.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because I mean I think, you know, our human ego wants to make it so difficult about what we're here to do, but actually it's so easy, isn't it? I mean, it really is easy, because
it is, if you can find the right people. And I think that, you know, the cracking of it is finding the right people and realizing when those people come in. Because I'm just sort of breaking, because I'm you know, you're bringing it all back. I'm just going back and back and back as to where the whole thing really started. And I'm not one of those that would say, oh, I was seeing something at 3-4 years old and all this sort of stuff. That just wasn't me. I always had an interest. I think the earliest thought was when I was told off by an aunt. I must have been about 6, I suppose, or 7, getting my cousins together, and we were going to have a seance to contact one of our great uncles that had died. And of course she came, what are you all doing? And it was only ready for a sort of a laugh, a joke, but you can see there was a drawing to it. It's like picking up crayons or things like that. Both my parents were very, mother used to dream, well, she's still alive, she used to dream a lot, and normally you didn't want to be in her dreams because it normally foretold passings. Father was very psychic as well, but it wasn't shown because, you know, you're going back into the early 60s, that sort of thing, 50s, 40s, 50s, they were born in the late 20s. So it's one of those things that started to evolve. But when it's right, you'll be put on the path, very similar to you, because, you know, it's really nice watching your journey from where you sort of come in, and it's like, I suppose, being streamed. You know, you're streamed from what you are good at, because they pull you towards them, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you resist it,
that's it. Yeah,
that's where the problems, well, not the problems, but that's where the development slows. But you need support around you. I mean, you're lucky you've got Dougie, I'm lucky I've got Lynn, and they're just happy not to indulge, but they're happy to understand. And it's when you come across the prejudices, or which you do all the time, you know, it's not quite racism, but it's almost, you mention what you do in certain circles and boom, you're either accepted or you're cut off. But you've got to drive through that, because you've got to be you've got to be who you are. And
that's against all of society programming, really, isn't it? Because society
you hit the nail bang on the head there.
Starting, you know, I mean, from the minute we go to school, really, well, before that, you know, depending on the parents that we've chosen, but certainly the minute you go to school and you're in that education system, then you are, you know, they are trying to funnel you into a certain amount of, you know, of gates, and if you don't fit into those gates, then you're gonna, you know, you are going to have
people these days aren't, which is part of the mental health problem, as you know, as well, because mental health runs very hand in hand with this. And some people think it's an easy option, you know, you've got all the answers. You haven't got all the answers, and I would stress that what you've got is an insight, but you need to push on in to find your own truth. That's probably where I'm coming from. So it's an interesting journey. For me, it's been a very interesting journey, because I've only come across other mediums, other astrologers, other tarot readers, and they've, I suppose, really for them, it's an easier journey because they've stuck to what they are. A lot of people said, well, what are you? In every walk of life, they've always said, well, what is it you'd actually do? You know, because you cover all so many bloody arenas. But the thing is, one thing led to another. And I'll give you an example. I mean, how I got into this was when I was working in an insurance office, I used to work in Southend, and didn't know how to break in, didn't know how, where and how I was going to, I knew I was interested, but didn't know how to break in. And it came about because a friend of mine was looking for IVF treatment, and he visited clairvoyance. Him and his wife visited clairvoyance, and he said, oh, this woman's absolutely marvellous. I was in my 20s, 1920s, something like that. You want to go see her? You want to go see her? And I'm thinking, why do I want to go see her for? You know, I'm happy where I am. I don't want to see a clairvoyant. And I went and saw this lady, and she was so accurate, absolutely blown away. And the thing was, I started to think, well, you know, how do you do that? What's all that about then? I rather like that, the way you lay the cards. I was fascinated. And while afterwards, a course came up for tarot, which was when I was back in Winchester, and went on the course, started reading the cards. From started reading the cards, you get clients in. Then I sat at a psychic fair, and a psychic fair medium sat opposite me and said, you're not a tarot reader, you're a medium. What's a medium? Come and sit in a circle, develop in a circle, and then you start to do, you know, everything that we do now, the past life stuff, the channeling, the trancing, the whole lot was put into about 4 or 5 years of circle development, which I'd never heard of, but it's a chance meeting. Then you start working abroad, and there's development. One thing leads to another, and then you reach often a burnout point, because I was probably in my late 20s then, and you've got too much information. I had too much information for the age that I was, and I can remember thinking, I'm either going to go mad or I've got to step back into the real world, because you reach a point where you suddenly start to think differently. I mean, you think differently, I know you do, and everybody in this room probably thinks differently because of their knowledge But it's very difficult to put that back into the 3D. You've almost opened the Pandora's box, but that never goes away.
Yeah.
And you go back into normal life, but it's still there. And then when it starts to come out, when I was worked with the TV station, you had questions coming in, and that's when they start to say, we need to know about numerology, we need to know about astrology. Okay, then there's a need to know, and so you develop all the extra skills. But then I sort of reached I didn't grow anymore. And this was probably about 2016, 2017. So it's quite a long way in, but you've got all this knowledge, so what do you do with it? And as you know, the next thing for me was, well, I've had enough of this, I'm going to go back out into the normal world. And I was working with driving, and happy-go-lucky, fairly fit, just come off holiday, and all of a sudden, boom, out of the blue. After lead up to this was I was interested in trance, and I wanted to know more about trance. And I wanted to know more about past lives. And I was asking the question, there must be a key. With all the knowledge I've got, there's got to be a key with numerology that you could go back, or astrology you could go back. You've got to be able to go back with something. And stupidly, you put it out, how do I do that? Well, of course, as you know, the rest is sort of history, because the next thing is I have the only way it can be described as a trance session for 8-10 seconds.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was when you were
on the A419 with a great truck. Yeah, that's the other side of it. But and so then what?
Sometimes we've got to be really, really careful what we wish for, isn't it? Because I want to know more about trance, and spirit is like, okay, I'll put you in trance, but you didn't specify that you weren't supposed to be driving at the time.
That's absolutely right. And I mean, when you look at the footage, it is a miracle how nothing else was hit. You just drive along.
It's not a miracle, though, is it? It's
I mean, drive along any dual carriageway, shut your eyes for 10 seconds, and see where you end up, really, and overtake. Because I ended up on a central reservation. But and when I come out from that, it was a really strange feeling, because it was like you were spaced. It wasn't falling asleep, because I tried to convince people I'd fallen asleep, and they weren't having any of it. In fact, they even said, "No, you definitely haven't." Of course, the hospital checks follow. There's nothing wrong with me. But it means I got 12 months out, 12 months to sit in four walls. So a premature lockdown.
Yes.
And with that comes massive download.
Yes.
So I started to write the book. I haven't published it yet, but it's almost just about done. It's about 100,000 words. And it's an insight into the soul, nodes, tarot. The whole lot was looked at in a way that you just sit at your desk and you start typing and you start writing, and you think, well, where is this coming from? It's all a bit, you've got to put it into cohesive bits to try and make it work sense. And it was hard sometimes. On other days it was easy. A bit like the drawing came to me really then as well. Portraits, started doing a lot of dog drawings and things, which still to this day I would say I can't draw, because I have sessions where you can't draw a bloody thing or a damn thing, and then other days when you just do a couple of squiggles and you think, you know what, I just feel there's someone else with me. There's someone else that's saying, put a bit of red in there, and you think, red in? I can remember some of the drawings, put red in there, you must be joking. But you put it in and you think, oh yeah, I see what you mean, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So it's a surrender.
Yeah. And it's channeling, isn't it? I mean, we all channel all the time. It's just how conscious we are of doing it. So I mean, I'm an artist as well, as you know. My best artwork has always been at like 3 a.m, when actually my conscious mind, my ego conscious mind is almost half asleep. So I haven't got that normal resistance, that linear mind, overcritical resistance to what I'm doing. And I'm, my pen's just moving, or the mouse is just moving, and it's kind of like, oh wow, that's amazing, because I'm letting that sort of, that higher self.
That is exactly what it is. And it's funny, because we got 2 dogs, and I walk the dogs often in the mornings, and I can guarantee you that as I enter a certain field, that's when it will happen. That's when you'll be thinking, you might come up with the question, how do I do? It's normally a question of, well, if that is about past lives, what about future? I mean, another question that came up was a brainstorm that you had is, well, okay, if you're alive in this world because you've had a past life, and there's a question for somebody, you've had a past life, so you've obviously died in that life, but people are alive that knew you in that life. So to them, we've reincarnated into this life, but to them, they are wanting to get in contact with you, and probably are through a medium. So in effect, we are the spirit world.
Yeah.
Ad infinitum. Can you see what I mean? It's like a Russian doll. It just and you start to ask that question. You think, well, wait a minute, and then lo and behold, you think, oh my god, here we go. And then you get a download. Say, well, oh, I see. Right, oh, that's a stupid question to ask.
Yeah.
I understand what. So you really got to carry.
Yeah, I mean,
like a recorder with you.
What I love about this journey, you know, I mean, the spiritual journey is there is no end. There is no goal. There is no goal to get to. There's no, you know, there's no end exam. It's just continual expansion. And, you know, the universe just wants to expand and expand and expand. So there is no kind of level to get to. It's just sort of like experiencing whatever you're experiencing from moment to moment to moment, and sort of like being more open and more open. So it's interesting what you said about past lives, because, you know, the more I do past life work, the more I realize that there is not really any past, present, future lives at all. It's just where our soul is focusing on at this time, which is, you know, and then you get into the whole quantum field of it, and this is where we're going, you know, humanity is going, is understanding quantum physics, quantum science, and that is going to bring back together spirituality and science, you know, because it's separated, you know, it's separated in, you know, with the Industrial Revolution and everything, and you know, where everything went mechanical, but it's coming back together again. And so that kind of segues quite nicely into numerology, because I used to poo-poo numerology because I hate numbers, I hate maths. Well, sorry, I hated numbers and I hate maths, and I've never been good at maths. It's far too left brain for me. You know, I'm a creative, I'm, you know, I'm artistic. I couldn't, you know, I was just rubbish at maths. I think I failed it completely at school. And so to me, it was kind of like, what's numerology all about then? That's just numbers. And but of course, you know, what changed everything for me is when I started training as a sound therapist and working with vibration and frequency and tone.
I was going to say that's the next thing, that smell is actually vibration.
So then I kind of like started to understand that everything is just frequency, vibration. Everything is, so there's no right, wrong, good, bad. It's just different frequencies. So there's no higher or lower, you know, in the spirit world. It's
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
So I mean, I heard it described the other day, and I thought it was a great analogy of a layer cake. So, you know, there's nothing that you know, the strawberry layer is no better than the chocolate layer, even if the chocolate layer is above the strawberry layer. It's just a different flavor. It's just a different frequency. And I think, you know, as humans, we're always trying to kind of like put, oh, something's higher or better than, you know, and it's kind of, and it's not like that. It's just circular, and it's just choosing different frequencies. So then I realized that numbers, what numbers are, is that they're just representations, they're symbols for a type of frequency, aren't they? So we're all familiar with like number one, you know, you want to be number one, you want to be that kind of individual, you want to go out and be creative and, you know, dance to the beat of your own drum kind of thing. And then of course so it's very kind of masculine, is it? It's like the arrowhead. And then we've got the two, which is the more feminine, you know, nurturing sort of, how would you describe it? It's
emotion. It's emotion.
So you've got mental and you've got emotion, and then you've got the sort of action, the yang, and then the reception, the yin, you know, the female, and everything needs to be in balance. So again, nothing is better or worse, higher or lower than the other one. So when I started to understand that, I really started to get numerology. So going to your numerology course and then finding out what life path I was, I mean, you just blew me away that day, because it was just like ding, 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 ding. That's why I'm like that. That's why I kind of like, you know, I've got this push pull about, part of me wants to lead, but also because of the 11, you know, I've got the 2 1s in there, but 1 and 1 makes 2. So actually I also want to be a real team player, I want to collaborate, and I want to nurture, and so I want to be on the throne and behind the throne
as well.
So you know, it just made so much sense to me, because I thought I was going mad for most of my life, You know, do I want to be going out there and being seen, or do I want to hide and you know, and be behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, numerology is not new. I mean, that dates back. What I found was amazing when I first looked at numerology. And I had the same sort of approach to you. What is numerology? Just one. Well, it's 1 to 9, which is a lot easier, perhaps, than astrology. Although really, astrology is sort of 1 to 7, depending on 1 to 7 or 1 to 9, depending on what you're working with, but on 3 levels. But the Greeks designed it and came up with the idea because it was like, well, a flower opens and a flower closes. And so there's a logical behind the flower opens when the sun shines. So therefore they must be something to do with numbers. And when you work the numbers and you really get into it, which I found I got into it with the astrology, I got into it with the numbers, I got into things with the tarot. And when you get that level, it's not just what you're seeing. It's not like just number 1 or number 2 on the page. They are speaking to you in a different way. I'll give you an example, because I really got into the numbers and worked on things like, you've got to work examples. That's really where you've got to go. You've got to look at things around you. Amy Winehouse was a classic example, because that was a set of numbers. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I know there was a 5 in there somewhere.
She had a lot of 8, didn't she? And the 8,
5,
it can be kind of like the millionaire or the pauper, can't it? So it's really up and down, and
it can as well. And there were also triggers, which is the same with astrology. There were triggers in there that if the parents' relationship hadn't broken potentially down, she may not have gone off the wall quite as she did, because there was a time bomb. I remember that was part of it. There was like a time bomb there, that it was very, very sensitive. And if someone shakes up a bomb, you're going to get an explosion. But you had 5s in there as well, which is someone very creative. So, you had, the point is, you had the shape. You knew what you were dealing with to a bigger or lesser degree. Now, with everything in this life, you cannot control it. There is this element of free will. But there was another one, which is a one which I predicted, which was the guy on Coronation Street. I can't think what his name is. Ken Barlow. I don't know what his name is.
Pat Roach, isn't it?
It's the actor, yeah. Because him and Max Clifford at the time, so it's going back quite a long way, it must be 2015, 2014, something along those lines, were both up for the courts. When you looked at the numbers, the one thing that really struck me with the numbers, with the guy from Coronation Street, there was support around him. There was a much more solid structure with numbers around him. With Clifford, there wasn't. So you had 2 people in an identical situation, and one was going to fall because one did not have the support, and that just came out in the numbers. So you could see, 2 people, identical charges effectively, but one isn't as strong. And that came out in the numerology. I mean, if you look at his astrology chart now, which I haven't done, you could possibly work it out the same, possibly, but you'd need a few more people involved. But the numbers give you your structure. Your numbers will, when you really go deeply into your chart, they'll tell you an awful lot. No, you've got your life path 11, but you've also got because I worked around it to make it like tarot. So that on the Celtic cross, so you've got your life path in the middle, and then you've got the card normally crossing it, which you do tarot, which I worked as the attitude. So if you've got a life path 7 and maybe an attitude, I don't know, an 8 or something, 7 and 8 necessarily perhaps don't go together as well as perhaps a 7 and a 2.
Yeah.
So it's what you've been given and your attitude to what you've been given.
That gets really complicated, isn't it? I mean, we could do a whole kind of 2 hours just that, but but just if we're just going to stick to our life path number.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a life path number, and that's, you find your life path number from your date of birth, don't you?
Just add your date of birth up.
Yeah, really. So just add it up. I mean, there are different ways of adding it up, but but you can, the kind of quick, lazy way, if you like, is to just add all the numbers across, isn't it? So I'm 11 09 1971, so that's 1 plus 1 plus 0 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 1. Yeah, so it's and then you keep reducing to a single number, unless it's a master number, which is 11, 22 or 33. So
we'll come to those afterwards, really. But I mean, in essence, if you add your date of birth up, you will whittle it down to a single number.
So everybody that's everybody is here at the moment. If you've got
Yeah, can work them out. Go on.
Work out your life path number if you don't know it already. I know I can see from the chat that somebody a life path 7.
In fact, actually, that was another interesting thing. When I used to do the talks on
Liz is an 8.
Yeah, you would find that there normally was, it is the kiss of death, there's normally a predominance of 2s, 7s and 9s in something like this.
Oh, we've just got 2 9s popped up there, look.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
11.
And Lorna's another 9 with a hubby of 11. Yeah.
Right. So then you start to see patterns, which is really what you're looking for. Not everybody will have them, but you see, we got a 9 there with a hubby of 11. You've got another 7. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see many 4s in here, because 4s would be like for accountants, soldiers, people thinking in a logical mind. You're looking for 2s, which are their emotions.
They're the empaths, aren't they? 2s.
So your 2s can also relate to 11, because obviously you might be a 2 and an 11, because obviously 1 and 1 make 2, but 11s and 2s.
Well, I think it was you that said that 11s are like 2 on steroids, and that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you do get reversals, don't forget, because I've got a feeling that what's Clinton? I think he's an 11. People like that can be 11s. Diplomats, someone very good at negotiating, that sort of thing, as well as being empaths, as murderers can as well. When you look at, there was a program on the West just recently, and what an interesting birthday that Rose West had, 27th of the 11th. Wow. 1953. So you've got a 9, you've got an 11, and I think you had another 9 at the other end. So you've got someone there that you could only just say, it would bring not alarm bells, but it would bring out and say, oh, wait a minite, there's something special. There's someone that stands out from
it's a standout, isn't it? Energy. And of course all numbers, like just like astrology signs have their light side and their shadow side, balance. So yes, you can get the most amazing spiritual teachers as 9 and 11s, and you can get murderers as nice as that. So and that's, I suppose, is free will, isn't it? That's where our human free will comes in. Is kind of like, you've got those energy threads, or when you were making up your recipe of the life that you wanted to to do, so your blueprint. So if you think about it like a recipe, but it's kind of like, what do you cook with that recipe? That's your free will.
That's correct. Yes. So it depends on your environment. Yeah. How you react to your environment. We got one here. Marie says, I've added 2109-1962. Same vintage as me, my dear Nearly. Looking Virgo, stroke you on the cusp, aren't you, with Libra? So 21st. So you're a 3, 10, 22 and 1 is 3, plus 9 is 12. And then you've got 1962. So 12, 22, 24, 30. Is that to 30, isn't it? 3.
Oh, don't ask me. I can't do it without a calculator. Okay. The thing is that if you're 1 digit off,
30. Yeah, you're 30, Marie.
Okay, so C's a life path 3.
Now that's a lovely one. That is a very interesting number, because a 3 is the actor. It's the combination of the 1 and the 2. But the things with a 3, they can be quite submissive, and they're ideal actors. Can be musicians. They're creative, but don't cross a 3, because you find an awful lot of 3s pile things up, and it's very much the nice Chianti, really, at the end of the day, if you're not careful, because they can be exceedingly vindictive if they feel they've been wronged, but they don't show it. But you're very, a 3 is very gifted. They are almost childlike.
I always see the 3 energy as the kind of like the pop star kind of, very light-hearted, entertaining, very witty, very entertaining, very kind of like, light-hearted. I always find with 3.
The Sagittarian, I've got a mark here as a Sagittarian energy, which is the 9th house. So it's spiritual. It's optimistic. That's Jupiter, ruled by Jupiter.
So Liz is saying that she'll have to do some life path numbers on some of the people that she works with, and and absolutely, I mean, I don't know about you, well, you probably do, but I mean, all people that I see as clients, I always ask them for their date of birth so that I
Yeah.
know that what their life path number is. And again, you know, I haven't got time to go into all of their different numbers, but even just knowing your life path number is your main number to know what you really wanted to do in this life, achieve in this life. It's your greatest gifts and your greatest challenges, isn't it? And
Yes, I mean it's almost like the meal that you've been given. If you think of it, you're going to a restaurant, but you've pre-ordered, but you don't know what you've ordered. You're then presented with a meal. So it might be spaghetti bolognese, it might be the finest beef, but it's you're either going to say, yeah, I really like this and get on with it, or you're going to, oh, I don't like this, and in which case then we start to go into a different
yeah,
realm. But it's about enjoying the meal. It's about looking at it eventually, because eventually that's what happens, is that you work your way through and learn to enjoy the elements of that number. That's what
yeah.
the life path
And
really.
again, I think, you know, we have, you know, it's again our human ego minds want to put, you know, some numbers better than others, some numbers more enlightened than others, and it just doesn't work that
No,
way.
it doesn't. No.
All it is just like the energetic ingredients that you've chosen to have these kind of experience on earth that your soul wanted to grow from. So, you know, it's you know, an 11 isn't better than a 2 or a 3 or
No.
any of that, you know, because I do come across that, obviously, because I spend time in master number 11 groups, and because it's
Yeah.
master number 11, you know, there are people that think, oh, you know, I'm a master number 11, and it's kind of like, you know, but actually being 11 can be really difficult. It's, you know, it's really about, you're here to do your bloody honors degree, you know, so you're not going to have an easy time of it. So,
No.
you
I
know,
mean,
but then I've seen people then flip into the victim consciousness side of it, of going,
exactly.
you know, poor me, I'm an 11, I'm so empathic, I just, you know, and then they use it as a kind of a victim consciousness story. So
Yes, you can, because it depends what surrounds it, of how you react to it. But there's a very interesting one down in the 22nd of the 4th, 1977. Maybe we should do a music show. I think that's what I feel. We could be more out playing records in between and get people to phone in. Can I get checked? It says 22nd of the 4th, 1977. Well, that to me is always a very, very interesting date. Sometimes with astrology, you come up with dates where you sort of look at and you go, oh, hello, here we go. What's going on here then? And one of those dates is really between the sort of 22nd of April up to about the 25th, 26th. Normally you are quite bespoke, you're quite quirky for some unknown reason. Don't ask me why. Another one is around August. If you're 24th, 22nd, 23rd, 24th of August, around the Leo Virgo term, they normally lead quite interesting lives. It means you're a bit out of the norm. Sometimes you can do things that are off the wall. Now, if we look at the 22nd of the 4th, so you're ending Aries, you're on the cusp of Taurus there. You've got 4, 4, so 22. You've got a master number. Master number really start with 22. So, you know, work is quite important. 22nd, so that's 4. Then over those 4, so another 4. And then 1977, which was actually not a very good summer. 10, 24 is a 6. So we've got 4, 4, and a 6. Now, what's so interesting about 4, 4, and a 6? And this is, I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Miss McCalladin, Una.
it's Una.
Is Una, that's how you say it, is it?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I want to say on there is I would like to look deeper into that, because you have a number 14. So you've got 6 and a 4 is 10, plus 4 gives you 14, whittles down to a 5. Now, a 5 is about expression. So you do well at writing, music, wouldn't be tied down very well. You want to expand your ideas and, you know, have some space. But you're also a 14, and a 14 comes into this universe with previous existence memories. So you would need to be careful with relationships and work where there's power involved, that you don't, that you trust, that you don't overpower a situation or get involved in power struggles. There's a karma.
Good. Sorry. I think it's probably better to just concentrate on life path
The life path
number.
number. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
The life path is made up of that.
yeah, because when you start talking about all the other components, unless they know what you're talking about, as in expression numbers and day numbers and all that sort of thing, it's going to get really confusing, because you know, they'll be going, well, well, I'm a 22. That's a massive. Well,
No, you're a 5.
Yeah,
You're a 5. You want to
just,
express yourself. Yeah, you want to express yourself, but you may have problems with power energies, power battles.
But what if she has if you just stick to the life path now?
Life path. Yeah, okay.
I think, you know, it is so
Simplicity.
the complexes are so deep that I mean, that's what people need a proper reading about, isn't it, to go into it deeper like that. So if we just stick to the life path number, then that's just one number that they you know, that's
yeah, okay. Where is Gina? Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Gordon.
So what is Una's
yeah. Excellent. Right. Okay. So there we go. We digest.
So I think everybody kind of knows their life path number, don't they? Or have you all worked it out now? Is there anybody that hasn't worked out their life path number? Just type quickly if you haven't. Cool. Okay.
Okay, Michelle. Hello, Michelle.
No, I haven't. Okay. So, Michelle, if you just if you've got a pen and paper, just write down your date of birth and then just add up all the numbers across. And that's, you know, for just quickness and simplicity. And then just keep reducing down until you get a single digit, unless it's an 11, 22 or 33, and you stop there. You don't reduce those any further. But so we've got we've got nines and 9s, 11s. So we've got nines then. So let's talk about the nines, because we've got at least 3 9s. So what sort of
interesting one.
What are those? What have those people decided to learn this life, if they're a life path learner? What are their natural gifts, and what are the kind of challenges that their soul have kind of chosen to work with?
Well, 9s are quite a tricky one. 9s tend to hold into situations, is probably the thing that you really want to be looking at if you're a 9. It's getting your expression out. You tend to take on other people's troubles, other people's worries. You're listening to other people. You make a great teacher. That's the real plus side. So you have a huge amount of 9. You're an old soul. As soon as you see a 9, a 9 is someone that's been here loads and loads and loads and loads of times, seen lots of scenarios. So you're very patient, or have a tendency to be quite patient. That's why with 9s, you often see them staying in jobs they don't really like, or staying in work that they don't really like, especially if it's menial or they get ground down, because the 9 is something that wants to rise up and say, oh, you know, like, they're not like a number 1. Number 1's, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's not very Aries. A 9, your path needs to be teaching, showing people other things, appreciation of music.
Counselors, don't they?
Counselors you could do with a 9, yeah, because you come in with old knowledge. And sometimes if you attach to someone that is maybe a new soul, well, I say a new soul, is of a needs to learn things, you will stay with them, and they can drain you. Depends on the dynamic. The best dynamic is where you have someone that really appreciates you and wants to learn from you. That's why they make great teachers.
Yeah. So they've got a lot of they've kind of got a lot of cellular memory, haven't they? A lot of wisdom from
wisdom. That would be the thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good it's worth saying that when we talk about young and old souls, again, you know, we don't want to put it into that hierarchy, or if you're an old soul, you know better. It's no,
just yes, you've been around. I mean, you won't necessarily know better. You see what I mean? But it could be that you're coming to the end of perhaps incarnations. There's other things going on with you. That's why patience and that sort of thing would appeal. But everything is a double sword. You need to look at a lot of people with 9s.
But really, I mean, young or old souls, it's really about earthly experience. So if you're a young soul, it just means that you haven't had as many incarnations on planet Earth as an old soul has, but you can be a much more advanced soul that's only had a few incarnations on Earth. And
depending on what you're experiencing, same as everything. Yeah,
and you could be a very old soul that's had lots and lots of Earth experience, and the reason you're still here is because you're just not advancing.
Yeah, there is that, because some people don't. I mean, it's not an automatic
Yeah.
you know, like a work advancement. You know, you start off as a corporal, and in 3 years' time you're the sergeant and then the general. It doesn't work like that. You might stay as a private for all, you know, several incarnations, just because you've either gone off at a tangent. And this is where we come back to square one. If you go off at tangents, which you've got perfect right to do, you know, you might come here to be a monk, but you end up digging up the road for 3 lifetimes, because that's the way you're distracted. And that's what I'm going to do, because I can. I've got free will. I want to explore free will. See, there's lots of ways of the proverbial skinning of the cat. You can't just say to someone, you're here to be a monk, because you've got to look at what that monk is here to learn and how he's going to learn it. He might learn it by going away and sitting in silence. He might learn it by digging up the road, because that's when he channels.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difficulty. It's about the purpose and how you, I suppose, how you get completion by realizing your purpose.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with your purpose.
So Mira says that she's a 9 and she's recently started to train as a counsellor. So, you know, that's, you know, sounds a perfect thing for a 9 life path to be doing.
Yeah, you're starting to fit into something that will attract other people. Because we said at the beginning, it's a lot about having people around you of a like mind. If you're in a group, you know, if we were trying to do this in an extreme right-wing group, we'd be you'd be thinking, what am I doing here? I'm going mad. It's because you're not where you're supposed to be. The elephant doesn't want to hang around with rattlesnakes. You know, he's got his own people and he's happy with these people, like everybody.
Well, that brings us back to vibration, isn't it? So it's kind of it's not really about what people do or what they believe, but it's the energetic vibration that
absolutely correct, which is where we'll come on to next when we talk about astrology.
Because I mean, one of the things that amazed me in you know 2020 with the lockdown and, you know, the polarity with the, you know, the pandemic and stuff, was the complete polarity and split in spiritual communities. And it just showed me really that it doesn't matter whether you're spiritual or whether you're, you know, religious or 3D or asleep or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't, you know, it's still really where you're resonating from, where you're resonating at a heart level or an ego level. So whatever labels that you put on that, it's still where you're vibrating at a frequency level. Really, are you vibrating from the heart and you know, from a place of unconditional love, or are you in the mind, you know, with too much in the ego, you know? So, you know, just because we're in a spiritual community, it doesn't mean to say that, you know, that everybody's love and light, you know. And
no, absolutely, yeah, it is. I mean, again, it's a bit like extremes. I was thinking about this earlier on. You got this thing in quantum about entanglement. So, you know, you've got two things linked together, and if one's turning one way, the other one's turning the other way. And as soon as this one starts to go the other way, the other one goes. So you've got balance. That's what I'm getting at. And if you can think of extreme over extreme over here, extreme over here, you really want to be where the head is, so that these two aren't continually switching and turning. As the Buddha says, take the middle road, and that's where you start to find
it's
peace, which is where it comes down to your vibration again.
Finding the balance, isn't it? So you'll get on with some spiritual people and you just will not get on with other spiritual people, and that's absolutely fine. It doesn't mean that they're more spiritual than them, or you're more spiritual than them, or whatever. It's just that you're vibrating on different frequencies and you're choosing to align with different energy streams. And again, nothing right, wrong, good, bad, just different frequencies. So Lorna says, I'm a 9 and I always wanted to be a teacher. And she gets asked by spiritual people all the time if she is a teacher. And I think, you know, that people that carry that 9 life path, or carry 9 heavily in their numerology chart, I mean, they, you know, I've found that people do want to come for you to advice, isn't it? There's something about the 9 energy that says, I can help you, you know, I have wise counsel for you. And it's something that again, before I was conscious of the numbers that I carry in my chart, I used to get really confused. I used to like, go away, I don't, you know, why do you keep coming to me for advice? But now I understand why that was, and I've opened myself out to it now. So again, it was a vibration that that I was using it in a very negative way. I was using the shadow side of the 9, if you like, before I realized that actually, you know, I people want my help, they want my advice. So, you know, instead of sort of trying to hide behind the sofa away from them, why don't I kind of like think, well, how can I give the best advice? You know, if people are going to come to me anyway, how can I make sure that the advice I'm giving is, you know, is heart-centered and most of service? So yeah, it's kind of, and the life path number is interesting, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, often what we're supposed to be doing is often the hardest thing for us to do, and that's the soul's growth, isn't it? That's where we push and grow, by stepping into what our soul wants to do, because usually as a human, we want to take the easy way out, which is usually going down the opposite side of our life path. So we try and
Well, it is,
avoid.
because you know there's got to be some form of pre-programming in there. Otherwise, we'd all be doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you can't. You know, if you think about it, some people come in this life and they're naturally good at guitar, or they're naturally good at something, or have a leaning towards something. Maybe they don't want to do it, but it's already inbuilt. It's already pre-programmed in.
Yeah.
And the numbers then can work in another way, because they can help you to understand who you are.
Yes. Yeah. I think
When you're confused, and you get confused when other people say, no, you need to be like this, you need to be like that, and you're thinking, well, wait, I don't.
yeah.
I feel different. So
The life path number will show you what you naturally resonate towards. So are you naturally resonating towards being a humanitarian, or are you, you know, a warrior sort of, you know, spirit? Are you an adventurer? Are you the sort of person that wants order and you know, likes to be organized? And although, you know, it might on the surface seem that a life path 4, for example, is more kind of, you know, not as adventurous and maybe a bit boring, but actually, you know, without those 4 people to kind of like give us the foundation and organize us, we'd be
I mean,
all over the place, wouldn't we?
Yeah, there's a classic example that is really almost Saturn. You could think of as 4, so ordered, structured. But you've got the flip side too. If the 4 goes wrong, or the 4 is there to, you know, you can't just say, oh, 4, oh well, there we are, we've got Mr. Accountant. It could be Mr. Sociopath, because, you know, for whatever reason, the 4 works better in reverse, or upside down, or negative, if you like. That's one thing I've discovered. You can't always go for the, we were talking earlier, you could have the empath, or you can have the murderer.
And I suppose it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, you know, we do live in a polaristic universe. It's a, you know, our planet and our galaxy is about duality and polarity. So it's always about seeing the both sides, you know, the light and dark, and just and
which side is stronger at that particular moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, 4, we need organization, we need those 4 posts in the ground, we need a firm foundation to be able to build up from. But the 4 in the kind of negative is going to be controlling, isn't it? So it's going to try and box you in and say, well, this is how you should be and you're not allowed to do it, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, there's 2 sides to every number, and that's really interesting, I think, when you find out what your life path number is. Because I mean, just for an example, Gordon, what kind of life path would you say was more prone to kind of like addictions, you know?
3s.
3.
Potentially 3. 2 would be, because you have the connection. It depends what you do with that connection. Probably not 7s on their own. 5, I think you probably work your way out. You see, the 3 is it's a strong number and a weak. It's such an interesting number. It's a strong number and a weak number, because you also look at the shape of the numbers. So something like a 6 is very strong, and if you look at the shape of the 6, you push it down, it just comes back up again. So you've got the eternal deep strength, humanitarian, and the mother, that sort of thing. The 3, you push that over, it doesn't get up again. It's sort of, oh well, you've done that to me, what am I going to do? You know, it sits on its back or sits on its front.
So would you say for 3s that it's really important to be mindful of whether you're a glass half empty or a glass half full.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are certain numbers that come up on the radar that you look at and you go, oh, yeah, no. 3 is one of them.
Yeah.
3 is one of them. 8 is another potential.
Yeah. So well, eights is, I mean, eights can be extremely balanced, can't they? Or they can be kind of like up or down, one or the other. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is you've got with an 8's life is that it's going to have extremes, because you've turned it on its side. You've got 11th state, you've got infinity. So nothing's going to break you, as it were, but you're likely to be wanting to go for gold. So when you go for something, you'll put your heart and soul into it. You'll want high expectations. It's sort of it's quite a Leo number. So you want things nice, you want things good. If you're going to do a newspaper, you're not just going to work for the local rag, you'll work for the Times, and you want to be the editor. So you're going for the high things. So when they fall apart, they can come crashing down. But it's your idea to get places. So again, you could have addictions there where people go in the opposite way. They failed so many times that I can't face it anymore. So you do the extreme in the other way.
Well, actually, that's what I remember from God, I've forgotten her name. Amy Winehouse. She had
well-being. It's the fame. It's a number of fame. Is 8. Another one was Robbie Williams.
Fame or fame.
Robin Williams. Sorry, Robin Williams, who suffered with the mental health. He had lots of 8s.
So just going back to, so we're nearly up to the first hour, so we'll go on to sort of like astrology in a minute. But so we've had quite a lot of 7s on here. So just tell me why we would expect to find a lot of 7s in.
Right. Well, 7s are very awkward. There's no two ways about it. They struggle with relationships often if it's a life path 7. The reason why is because you can be the life and soul of the party, or you can be the absolute recluse. So when someone picks up with a 7, they're often attracted by their vitality. But they find the 7 is quite obsessive. It's quite almost Virgoian, if that's the right word, in that they want to know everything. They're the seeker, the spiritual journey, and they want to get to the bottom of things. I don't know if he is, but someone who you would think of as a 7 would be that footballer turned David Icke. I don't know what he is. He's probably not, but he would be typical of a 7. He gets a nut between his teeth and he wants to go and go and go and doesn't give up until they find the truth. And then when they found the truth there, they go off and find the truth in something else. They're the spiritual.
There is no truth. It's all perspective, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. So you can see there that you can potentially, if you start putting numbers together with relationships, I don't think you get it, but 7 and a 3, they could either work exceedingly well together, or you could have problems depending on what you've got.
Yeah. I mean, my personal kind of experience with 7s are that they're either really, really kind of spiritual, and that they really want that knowledge. So it's kind of like they thirst for knowledge, and they're really good at reading and researching and all that stuff, and it's usually got a very spiritual slant to it. The other side of 7s I've noticed is that they can go the other way. They can completely poo-poo anything that isn't logical, and they prefer be very much in the head and the left brain, and then those are the people that I've found that kind of have a hard time, because actually true spirituality is kind of like centered in the heart. So it's kind of it's almost like they have this disconnect between the intellect and the heart energy.
But they're driven. You see, you're driven on one way. If you can't make it one way, you'll make it the other way. That's really what you're saying with the 7. So if I can't make it on one road, I'll go down the other. But either way, I'm extreme, or can be extreme.
So that's a little bit about the sort of life path numbers and things like that. But also we're ruled, aren't we, by the influence of the numerologic. Can't say it.
Numerological.
Yeah, that's the year that we're in, aren't we? So last year, 2020, was a number 4 year, wasn't it? Which so that feeling of restriction and being boxed in and kind of and not feeling like you're not pushing forward in any way. I mean, that was really emphasized, wasn't it? But of course now 2021, we're in a totally different feeling year. We're in the universal year of 5, aren't we? Which is what it's all about freedom and adventure, isn't it? It's all about kind of like,
It is. I mean, if you
go down.
if you probably take it in a logical sequence, if a 4 is particularly squeezing and over conforming, the 5 is going to be going to really rebel, because that's what a 5 does. A 5 needs its space.
And it's funny, aren't we? We're seeing that at the moment. It's almost like
Yeah.
people have got so fed up now with the restrictions and being confined that they're kind of, you know, it's kind of, you can feel that energy. It needs to break out of its box. And
5 can be a wild child. You know, it is that it potentially is. Mercury really is a 5. So Mercury can again swing both ways.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting watching numerology as it plays out, you know, in times, you know, that we're going through. So yeah. So moving on to kind of like the astrology. I mean, you know, most people know what their sun sign is, their moon sign, you know, maybe even their kind of rising sign and stuff. And again, you know, we just can't go into all of that tonight. But it's sort of what interests me is kind of what most people probably have no idea is in their chart.
Totally disregard.
Yeah, which is their north and their south node. And even though I've had an interest in astrology for, well, even since I was a teenager, so, you know, like 40 odd years now, I only really knew about and came across the north and the south node as how important it is about your life path, your blueprint, if you like.
It is probably one of the most untalked about, hidden, missed, you know, glossed over part of a chart.
And yet I think it's like probably the most important, because again, it's kind of, well, you just give me
well, the thing is, with most people get into astrology, and the classic astrology can be, if you do it the wrong way or do it the accepted way, you'll find astrology is very hard, very, very difficult, because you're looking at something which is almost like looking at a book of logarithms, and you just think, well, how does all of this relate? So when you look at a classic astrology, you have 3 levels. All right, you've got 3 levels. You've got the houses of planets and something else, houses, planets. But you've got to bring it into 3 levels, which is hard. It means you've got to mix 3 things together. When I had my epiphany, call it what you will, this simplified astrology, which is what you're talking about the nodes, it's simplified astrology down to, I suppose it was the difference of trying to make a complicated chocolate cake. And I don't know if there's any bakers amongst you, but once you start experimenting with chocolate, you know you're on the road to nowhere, because you might work, it might not. As soon as you start adding chocolate cakes, they can turn out any way you like. So suddenly going down the shop and getting an instant mix, that's the difference. When you look at nodes and really knock out the rest of the chart, because the rest of the chart is not important, really. It's not important. What you're interested in out of astrology, well, the same as numerology, because what you really realize then is you have your blueprints. The blueprint to the world is all around you. You've just got to find the access. You can get it with the tarot, you can get it with astrology, you can get it with numerology. Depends what you're looking for, and that's the key. When you look at an astrology chart, what is it you're looking for? Most people say, well, what are they like? What's my partner like? Da, 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 da. And you'll struggle all day long. So in essence, with an astrology chart, what is an astrology chart? Let me define that first. It is a snapshot of a piece of time. And a lot of people go about this the wrong way, because they say, oh, well, I was born on the 6th November 1961. Oh, right, okay, so that's when you were created. No, not really. That's when everything aligned that you could be seen, if you like. That's when the twilight came, that suddenly said, oh, look, there's somebody stood over there. So if you think of it in those terms, your chart is the picture of you at perfection. It's when you've come into this earth, and it will show you, well, not quite how you're going out, but it's picturing you in the right light. So you've come in when everything's aligned, not the other way around. You haven't come in and we've aligned and said, that's your chart. It's the other way around. You've come in. So all you've got to be worried about or concerned about, look at, is the picture of you, your ego. That's your sun. So that's what you see of me. You see some old codger, you know, sprouting forth. That's the sun. That's the physical energy. What you can't see is my emotion. I'm either very happy, I could be sad, I could be, you know, a mix of 1 in a million and one emotions, which you can't see. It's hidden. And that's the moon. So you only need the sun and the moon. That's all you need to concern yourself with your chart, because that will tell you what you're like to be seen and what you're like underneath, the unseen, what you carry with you through all your experiences. Now, when you look at the node is not actually an existing space within the chart. What it is, in the most simplest form, it's where the sun and the moon have intersected at some stage. It's their crossover point. So you can think of it as the point where your emotions and your persona meet. So those two things come together. So it's your joy and it's your absolute hate. So it's either things you don't like the look of, don't like the feel of, or absolutely love the feel of and love the look of. But it's the sum total of you, but it doesn't exist. It's just.
How does it give you a clue into what where you're supposed to, because the North Node is where your soul wants to.
Yeah, supposedly. So what you've got is almost in Vedic astrology, which is slightly different, but this is really where it's come forth from. It's your entry and your exit. It's the bit that runs right through your core. Think of it in those terms. You know, when people think of their chakras, your energy space that runs through. So think of it as a line right the way across your chart that is the epitome of you. It tells you where you come from and where you're going to. So without going into what is the use of it? What's the main use of this knowledge? So you could say okay, take me, I'm a sun sign Scorpio and I'm a moon sign Libra. My moon is in Libra, my sun is in the constellation of Scorpio. So Scorpio, you're outward, you're probably secretive, you're delving deep, typical Scorpio. The emotion that's hidden is well balanced because it's Libra. So those two things make up my persona. And you can almost say, well, cutting the average is the North Node and the South Node. So what does it mean? Well, it means that in a past life, somewhere along the line, I would have had Libran tendencies. So
that's your South Node, isn't it?
That's linking to your past life. Your moon will link to your past life. It will give you an indication. So where's your moon? It's Taurus, and something. Where's your moon?
I'm Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node.
Yeah, because you're directly opposite me. So where's your moon though?
Gemini.
Gemini, right? Okay. So essentially, the part that you carry into this world is the ability to talk, is the ability to draw, because that's what Gemini is about. It's about teaching, showing people, making things simplistic, because that's what you've carried through from a previous incarnation. That's where that's where the moon lies. So that will give you a hint as to what you were in a previous life, culmination of. So mix that with the South Node. When you put the South Node into it, for this sort of thing, it will tell you more about your past life. But that's not really where the skill of this is involved. The skill of learning this is so that when you meet, you'll become fascinated by this, I can tell you. Once you get your head around it, you won't stop because you'll need to find other examples. And this is what I couldn't believe. So I was given the information about the past life and where you're going to, which is the standard stuff, or some people will say standard stuff. So where your North Node lies is what you want to be concentrating on. And think of the North Node as a massive magnification of yourself. So anywhere where your North Node is a bit like a magnet. You will be attracted to people or things that intersect with your North Node. You'll also be attracted to people and things that are attached to your South Node as well. So as opposed to now knowing the whole chart, all you need to know is the position of your North Node and your south node. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting, because dear old Angie over there is on the almost, and you can think of it as a pathway through. So I'm going from Aquarius, in essence, think of just Aquarius. I'm going from Aquarius, my trip, to Leo, because you're always dead opposite where your north node. You won't find the south node on the chart, it's just dead opposite. So if you look where your north node is and then look 6 houses past, you'll see that axis. And it's all about axes and the axis that you're traveling on. So I am coming from Aquarius to Leo, walking down the road. Angie comes into my life, and hey ho, guess what? She's coming from Leo to Aquarius. So we are meeting. My experiences in a past life will match what she wants to know in this life, and vice versa. And then, hey ho, the plot thickens, because who is she married to? From memory, she's married to a Leo. Well, my north node is in Leo. So why is it that I suddenly meet Angie, get on with Angie, and then I think, oh, wait a minute, Dougie, he's a bit strange. He accepts all this. He works in a normal job, but he's okay with spiritual stuff. We get on fine. And then you start to put things together. You think one and one, yeah, that's just coincidence. Yeah. That's just coincidence. So, as I said, it's then you just take it one stage further. So what you need to then know is just your node position. So I'm really only interested in thinking, why am I always associated with Leos? Let me give you an example. My mother is Leo rising. She's a Aries, but she's Leo rising. My first wife was Leo. Her father was a Leo. Her mother was a Leo. Lo and behold, what do we give birth to? A Leo child, Scorpio rising. But I'm suddenly thinking, why have I suddenly got an association with so many Leos? Making me true. Why have I suddenly got association with so many Leos? Because when you're coming in, you are automatically thrown into, and this is where the synchronicities occur when you start to break it down. It's suddenly associated. So you don't stop there. You start to compare charts. And when you can, one of the things, because I do a course on this, it's I think about a 4-6 week course. And it sounds very simple, but all we're looking at is north nodes, and it'll take you that long to get it just over one night. What else associations we get? We get Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew, and Epstein link in their charts. The Beatles, Ringo Starr, no, not Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney links with the guy that died, not Lennon. No, not Lennon. He doesn't link with Lennon, funnily enough. No, he links with the other one, George Harrison. And I thought, oh, there we are. Now we've blown it. Until you start reading the biographies, I don't know much about the Beatles. Paul McCartney and George Harrison were the best of mates. They were the ones that suddenly met John Lennon and put the Beatles together, and they link in their charts.
Yeah.
Rose West, Fred West.
Saying that kind of
they link.
Yeah. So do you think that our astrology charts, we've got that kind of energy template that will then pull in and be a magnet to other
the people that you've linked with as soul people? Now, the next part of this experiment is, because I'm always great for experiments, I don't think you should accept anything. You want to get your own knowledge, if you see what I mean. Don't take it from me that it exists. The next part of this would be to get together for a circle or development, or call it what you will, by working on charts and seeing people that are related via their charts to give you the energy that will then enable you to perhaps channel better energy to get the answers. Because what it means is you were linked previously. Now, it also works on the negative, because when I had a big falling out and a big bust up in a business situation, if I wish I'd have known that then, because of course you go back over everything that you've ever looked at, and lo and behold, I find Mars involved. I was dealing with someone with Mars that was intersecting with my north node. Well, Mars is an enemy from a previous life. You've fallen out with them in some shape or form.
Yeah.
And so if you just, when you meet somebody, if you compare the charts, you don't need the time, just need a birthday. That's all you need. Is there anything playing with the nodes on any of the charts? And that will tell you whether you're going to get on, fall out, or whether you've linked in the previous life. Now,
so could you say that kind of like the north and south nodes and how different charts affect each other just on the north and south node is very much on whether you've got karma with?
No, I don't think to be karma. What it is, I mean, you and I would be, I think, probably far enough apart that we would have known each other. So we wouldn't have been married to one another, and we probably wouldn't have been siblings, I don't think, from what we've looked at the charts, but we'd have been around the same situation, probably like we are now.
Yeah.
Just repeating. So we'd have had the same influences, potentially, the same ideas, without going into it too much depth. And what it says is automatically there's a relationship, there's a relationship that would work, a relationship that would build this, because you need something from me and I need something from you, if you see what I mean, because we've each got a part of a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And so therefore there's a gel, like a great business partnership, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's very true, actually, because there's bits that I'm missing that you fill in, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that was interesting when I had the session with you, when you went into trance and you were channeling your guide, and I was, you were out the picture. I was just having a conversation with your guide, which is fantastic. And and your guide was sort of like saying, well, the reason, you've got a lot in common, but then you'll suddenly clash. And the reason you'll clash is because Gordon's very earth, associated with earth, and you're very galactic and angelic. So it's kind of like, there's a point where you're kind of you have different perspectives, because of sort of like where you are dimensionally resonating from, where your soul is kind of
correct. And that's the other thing that I was going to say, is that suddenly, I mean, I am very, for those who know me, I'm very meat and two veg. It takes a lot to convince me about something. So I've gone feet dragging. I don't like talking about what I do. Lynn will say, oh, he does this, that, and the other. I'm sort of, oh no, please, just, I don't, people that know me, I'm happy, but I don't want to start talking to strangers about what I do. But the thing is, so therefore, I'm thinking, okay, you're a medium. That's what I say. I'm a bog standard, simple medium. I just talk to dead people. That's all I do. Make people laugh.
Just what you do.
Just what you do, right? And then one day, I was at the Healing Weekend, which is a massive weekend down in whatever it is, the farm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somerset. And it was the end of you do 3 days down there, normally Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Fantastic, full of spiritual people, full of lots of weird and wonderful artists, and all the lovely people I love hanging out with. And the last few sittings that I had, so I'm sitting there minding my own business, people come in front of your table, they go over half an hour reading or whatever. I started to get these, you're not of this earth. I think I must have mentioned this to you.
Yeah.
You're not of this earth. I've got things here that I don't understand. I want to talk to Granny Smith. I don't want to talk to Tonto from Mars. That's effectively what. And the people say, well, yeah, that's right. And so I'm thinking, it's a bit like Men in Black, this is, and you're suddenly thinking, oh God, we've really gone, we've really lost it now.
I remember that weekend so well, and I remember sort of like coming out of the readers' tent, and you were getting an ice cream from the ice cream van, and I sort of like said, oh hi Gordon, something. You turned round, and it was just like you were just like rabbit in the headlights, and I was kind of like, what's wrong with you? And you were like, I've just had like aliens sitting in front of me, and it's like I'm not, I'm not ready for this. I just talk to somebody's dead man. I don't talk to galactics.
That's right. So your astrology doesn't necessarily mean that we're talking Granny Smith. We can be talking so we all come from different arenas. Yeah. That's the point I'm getting at. But the chart will tell you.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that in a minute, but just let me go through some of the questions. So Lorna says, sorry to go back to past life, life path, but can either of you recommend any good books to buy on life path?
I don't know anybody, to be honest with you, about
I can sort of I can link you to a great website, Lorna. I mean, I can do that. Just message me in the give me a nudge in the Soul Collective if I forget to post. So Liz says, so is the North Node where the sun is in your chart? It's not. It's a separate thing.
No, it's a little. What you want to look for is it's. See if I can get it on the camera.
Because it's
it
not.
Sort of looks like that.
It on the...
Oh, it won't show it, will it? Because it's background. I won't show it because the
disappeared into the cosmos.
Yeah, that's right. It's unique. You don't need to know whether it's a true or mean. It's just the North Node that'll give it to you. It looks like a. What does it look like? I suppose a space invader, doesn't it? Really, sort of thing.
You need to know your time of birth.
No,
no,
that's the beauty of this. You don't need to know the time. You just need the birthday.
Yeah. So I mean, I would recommend somebody just get in touch with you to have their
Yeah,
chart.
I mean, if you know your birthday, even better, because it brings in another polar, which.
But you can, but if somebody just wanted to go away now, you know, after this, and just quickly Google their birth chart, there's Cafe Astrology.
Well, I can tell you, I've got a birth chart up here. If someone wants to give me a birthday, I can.
Liz, do you want to give us your birthday? You don't have to if you don't want to give your date.
Yeah, if you want to do a sort of a tester or something along those lines, we can.
If she's still here,
we can look at it. In fact, actually, if you can I share the screen? I suppose I can I?
I think so. Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Right, well, if I can share the screen, I can share the chart with you.
Oh, Liz
I'll show you exactly what I mean.
Okay. This is the 15th of February 1971. Oh, good vintage 1971.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Aquarians around the moment. What's going on? That and Cancerians. I seem to be doing nothing but Cancerians. Right, okay, so let's edit this. Do you know your time? Who are we talking to?
This is Liz. You just said you didn't need the time.
No, I don't. But if she's got it, it just makes it
she's
more.
put 8:20 a.m.
Excellent. What was the birthday?
16th of the 2nd, 71.
16th. Well, she's going to be similar to you. 16th of the 2nd, which is February. 1971. Okay, and you're 8 o'clock in the morning, roughly, aren't you? Born in the UK. Okay, right. So see if I can share the screen. No, you've disabled it, so I need to. Yeah.
Let me just. What would that be? Gallery?
Oh, there we are. Now that's an interesting chart. My God, that's an interesting chart. Yeah.
She's an interesting person.
I bet she is. I bet she is.
She's larger than life, Alice.
Well, I was about to say, and I'll show you why she's larger than life too. So this is what's her life path number? While I'm trying to sort this out.
She's an 8.
Oh, God, see, it builds. It builds and builds. You need to disable probably being a host, maybe.
Oh, I don't know how to do that.
You don't? Okay.
Just tell her what a North Node is.
Right, okay. Well, what you've got there is a very interesting chart, because you're going to Aquarius. In fact, again, well, there's a perfect match. There is a perfect match. Now, I would link. Where is this lady? Where can we see her?
She's in the chat. Let's have a look.
Got a video.
Let me just put on gallery view.
Video. Hello.
There she is. I'll unmute you, Liz. Hang on.
Now.
It was the 15th, not the 16th.
Oh God, I should so have my glasses on. Sorry.
God, you're getting old there, Ange. What's going on? Well, it's not going to make much of a difference.
And you've got me in my PJs, so looking good.
Are you born in the morning or evening? In the morning.
Morning, 8:20 in the morning on the 15th of Feb.
Yeah, it don't make much difference.
You've always got kitties with you, Liz. That's what I love about you.
Yeah.
Gordon, you do actually know Liz, or you've watched her dance enough times.
Dance, right? Okay.
Morris dancing.
Right. Oh, okay. Right. Right. Okay. So you and I would get on exceedingly well.
Oh, yeah. Point down the pub then when we open.
Yeah, it should get on exceedingly well. Now, a random pick of 2, 4, I don't know how many people are in here, 10, 14 people. Your south node, that's all I need to know. I just want to know where the nodes are, because I know where my nodes are, and I'd compare your chart to mine. That's what I would do. So you're at 23 degrees Aquarius. So first of all, Aquarians and Pisces might hold quite a pull for you. So it'd be the first area of exploration was, do you find yourself around a lot of Aquarians or a lot of Pisceans? So Pisceans are born sort of February through to March. They can be quite influential in your life. But you have the sun right on the North Node. Your sun and North Node are joined together. And remember, the only two things you need to worry about in this whole chart, this is spooky, is the moon and the sun. Now, the sun is on the north node. Now, as I said, the north node acts like a magnet or a magnifying glass. So what do we say? The sun is your ego, is what we see of you. So that's the sun. So your personality. Now, if your personality by default, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, would be magnified. So I would expect you to probably be quite outspoken, or certainly energetic, and I don't know you, energetic in one way or withdrawn in another. You also may, because the sun normally relates often to parents, you may have had trouble with an overpowering parent or overpowering people, or males in relationships in general could be overpowering to you, simply because that's what the sun does. It overpowers it, so you become blinded. Now, my south node is at 23 degrees Aquarius. Now that's where I've come from. Okay, so you and I would have been either related or linked together in a past life. Potentially I could have been your father, or you could have been my father in a past life, or someone of huge influence. Now, your moon, which is even more interesting, your moon is almost identical as on top of mine. It's in Libra. So that further confirms that we would have been closely linked previously. So it's like, what would happen is you walk into a pub, you start talking, and you think, well, yeah, we're getting on well, blah, 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 blah. As time goes on, you might find there's big differences between us. And that would start to erode, because you're going to Aquarius. I've already been there. I'm trying to get to Leo. I'm trying to get to the other side. I'm trying to move away from the collective and be an individual, but I'm continually being drawn back to the collective. So you might find in that instance, you look at the chart and say, well, okay, so what's going on here? This is where it becomes so powerful. What's going on here? Oh, he wants to get married to you in bits and pieces. And you think, well, I'd be very careful, because it might be working to start with, but eventually you are likely to pull away from me, because your planet is on my node. So you're likely to move away. So there'd be something that would cause eventually, not a conflict, but a differences of opinion. That's how powerful this is. That's how powerful it is.
So if you were if you were brought together, then
yeah, we would be. It's interesting we're brought together here, because we're in the same soul collective.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, I know Liz from my Morris dancing and stuff, and you know, and you live in the same. I mean, Liz, you do live in Bretford, don't you?
Yeah, Offenham.
Oh, right.
Not far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but you know, it's the same kind of like area, isn't it? So it's interesting, isn't it, how you always meet whoever you're supposed to meet. I think that, you know, this is the magic of the universe, that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're the other side of the world or whether you're just down the road. If you're meant to connect with somebody, you know, for your own soul's growth. So it's always like the soul is in charge, and it's kind of like, and the soul.
Well, the two of you would connect as well, you see, because you're slightly, because I think yours about 14 degrees, 13 or 14 degrees, isn't it?
I'm 11.
No? 11. Okay, so you're further apart. Now, to say how rare this is, I normally take to 2 to 3 degrees as being a connection. So it's not, you know, it's got to be, it's quite unusual to find connections. You look at a lot of charts and there won't be any connection at all, but where there is a connection, and ours will be a past life connection. So the next thing on from there would be to, you know, look at what we perhaps were doing. It is likely that you, probably it's likely that you were the parent, is what I would say. I think you probably would have been the parent, because you would have been in with Leo. So yeah. Anyway, that's I just diversified, but that's the power.
Yeah, but that's a great example, isn't it, of how this stuff works, and it really does work. And
it does work, yeah, unbelievably work. I mean, that's what I say. It blows your mind, because you then think, well, I'm going to test it. I'll test it. And as I said, I was watching a program on the West, and I thought, how can they do? But what happened was the moon, which is even more powerful. I can't remember which one it was, whether it linked to Freds or Roses, but all they had to do was meet. Once they've met, then once the magic happens. But because it's on the north node, you're going to be influenced by it, and it's influenced by the moon. Now, if you have someone with a moon that intersects your north node, So if you found someone with a moon in Leo or a moon in Pisces, this is for Liz, you are likely to find them hugely attractive or be attracted to them for whatever, whether it's business or whether it's relationship. You find it very, very, very hard to resist, because the magnification of your North Node and the magnification of their emotion, which is the moon, would pull you unbelievably together.
And that's
the action with Rose and Fred West.
And that's because you're supposed to be learning on some way from each other, isn't it? So
it is. And again, though, you've got to put into it the chance meeting. You might never meet them. You might never meet them, but you are connected. And if you do meet them, it'll be very difficult. You'll have this feeling of deja vu. There'll be a feeling of, yeah, we've got a road to travel.
We've all had that, haven't we? We've all, I mean, I'm sure everybody here can sort of like say that they've met somebody and it's just like, I just know them from somewhere.
That's right.
I don't know where. And sometimes these people become really good friends, or they become, you know, lovers and partners or whatever. And or sometimes you're just literally ships that pass in the night, but you've made that energetic connection. There's something about that energetic connection which helps both of you, even though on a conscious human level, you might never even recognize it or understand it. And you know, this is the beauty about how energy and frequency works, and, you know, numerology works and astrology works. And I mean, it is fascinating. Let me just have a scroll through there
is another dynamic here as well. In that you can often look.
I'll pop you back on mute, Liz, just so.
Yeah, there's often fame that can be signaled in a chart as well. But the other one is that people, the more I studied this, what I found was that people can have differing lives, in that you can be on this, if you think of yourself on this track, say from Leo to Aquarius. If you're going from Leo to Aquarius, you're sort of going from royalty almost to dealing with the masses. But there is also another one, the Sagittarius to Gemini route, which is where you've got this, you come into this earth with immense knowledge, and you're on a downward slope because you like teaching to primary school children. Not, I don't mean literally, but you've got immense knowledge of some description that you're giving out to the masses. And you've only got the route back. If you're coming from Gemini towards Sagittarius, you're relatively uneducated and you're here to learn masses, you know, degree courses or spiritual, whatever. So you do have and there you can get an abuse of power, because you can sometimes find this when I looked at murderers. They come in with immense knowledge and use that knowledge to commit heinous crimes.
Yeah.
And that's what they got away with it, because it's always like, well, I've been here before, I know all this, I know. Yeah. But then you build up a debt. And then you seem to have these lives where you clear the debts, because it might take several lives before you meet up or come together with people that you need to level the playing field with, and then you start all over again.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So Stephanie's just sort of, I'm trying to scroll up through the comments that Stephanie, you always ask brilliant questions. She says, do life path numbers apply to animals as well?
Yeah. Animals are exactly the same as us. You can come back as a tree, you can come back as a Doberman. You know, it's energy. Yeah. Animals are exactly the same. You get animals come through from the spirit world. You know, you'll often get a link with a dog that shows itself up, or a cat, anything.
Yeah, I've got a life path 9 cat, and he's the most chilled out old soul cat. He just looks at you sometimes, and I think, oh my God, he knows more than me. You know, just has this kind of, you know.
Think what household he's come into, for Pete's sake, you know.
I joke sometimes that he's on his last round as a cat, and then he'll be going, you know, he'll be human next on life path 1 human. Or
that's it, recycled round.
Yeah. So I mean, there's lots of people that kind of like asking, you know, sort of to work there, sort of, but I mean, really, you know, this is what you need a proper reading for, isn't it? Really,
you do, yeah. I'm just giving you an idea to whet your appetite. That's really what I'm here for.
What I used to say to Gordon when I used to go for readings, you know, I used to say, I'll have the whole buffet, please. I'll have a bit of numerology, a bit of astrology, and can we get a few cards as well, and just, you know, and that's what I love about going to you, Gordon, is that, you know, you can kind of like almost like pick a mix what sort of mood are you in? You know, do you want to talk to your dad, Nan, and have a few cards pulled, or do you want to
Yeah.
go into your you know, soul's blueprint on a numerology or an astrology level? So just, I mean, what how do you offer your readings? And
well, the readings are more about, I suppose, it's asking the right question. What I mean, this is another something.
Right. So if somebody wants to come and see you for whatever reason,
Well, first of all, I do it over Zoom. You can get to me on Gordon Robert Spirit Medium, which is a page. I thought we had a link on here, but I'm not sure whether we do. And I mean, here is Gordon Robert, not Gordon Robert. So I've got two pages. One is the private page, which is what I think I must be pulled in on that one through Angie. The professional page, which is sort of exactly the same, but it tells you all about me. There's a few reviews and other bits and pieces there. Is Gordon Robert Spirit Medium. It doesn't matter which one you go.
I think that's linked. I think that's your co-host.
I think it probably is linked. Yeah.
But I can do. I'll post your Facebook page if it just in case. I'll
or just message me in some shape or form. Whichever. I mean, you'll ask for a friendship and then message and we do it. I mean, it can be done over Zoom these days, or you used to do one-to-ones. But it's very much readings on a totally different level because it's fairly laid back. I normally spend about an hour. I don't think you can do much in under an hour. You need to get to know one another. You need to get to know what you're about, because readings are a totally different subject. But I've said about this before, the sort of reading that you're looking at is trying to get your head around the roadmap. So getting a reading, just like I'm saying to someone, I'll pick a card for you, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, I'm in a relationship. Should I break from the relationship? Well, maybe it's good if you do, but right, okay. But it's only a snapshot. It's only like picking up what used to be the old A to Z. It's finding your way around Brepton or finding your way around Evesham. It's not looking at the whole map and saying, well, I started off in Cornwall and I'm on my way to Scotland. That's really what you need to know. So then you can put things in perspective. So you can also look, we're using this, and it blows me away every single time I think of it, by saying, well, look, I had a relationship here, or I'm with somebody here. What are they here for? Are they just a casual, am I making a new relationship here? Is it something from the past? Is it something I've got to learn? So therefore your reading starts to make more sense, but it's self-empowering as well. So often what I'll do is I'll give a card to take away. So for example, let's look at Liz. So she's there saying, okay, so I'm going to Aquarius. I don't really understand Aquarius, but I've read the books, don't understand Aquarius. Well, okay, well, let's translate that into tarot. If you do tarot or want to look, and I can give you the meaning, because I've channeled a lot of meanings from the cards and major cards, you could look at something like Aquarius. I'm trying to think, it would be the star. That's where you're heading. So that's what you want to concentrate on. So you've got the star in one end, and where you're coming from, what you want to maybe look at about not concentrating on will be the strength card. So anything perhaps where you're going back into conformity, or you're going back, I can't go away because I need people around me to be strong. No, what this is saying is you want to go into the collective but be yourself. The star is about putting a bit of faith. Look at, is there a life path number that would help you? So what you've got is a series of things that when you've got a problem, you can revert back to almost like a little altar and say, well, this actually is my makeup. This is my goal. This is my plan. This is my mission statement.
Yeah.
Then relate.
Really great.
Yeah, then relate it. I mean, I came up with a new system for tarot for Leo is strength. I came up with a new way of doing things. Again, this is when you're minding your own business and they come in, and I was talking about tarot, and I really, really, really do love tarot. I would put my life on tarot. If I had a decision to make, I would rely. That's how brilliant I think those cards are.
But again,
it's
what's the word, right? Distillation, though, isn't it, of energy?
It is.
A representation of energy. So, and of course, the numbers correlate to the tarot as well, don't they?
They do. Everything all correlates in. Yeah. But this was a different way of looking at things. So when you draw yourself a card, okay, let's do it. Let's take an example. I'm always great for looking at examples. Okay, so let's just say we'll draw a card for this. Say again.
You pick a card for this group.
Yes, that's what I was about to do. You must be psychic. I'll pick a card for this group as to what the reasoning is for this. What's the energy behind this group? Okay, that's what you got. Now that's quite a hard question to ask from a simple pack of tarot. So the way I would phrase it is, if this was a film, what's the feeling that this film is trying to give to you? So, you know, are we going to a horror movie? Are we going to a romantic film? So are we going to come out feeling, you know, thrilled? Are we going to come out feeling loved or moody or however it is? So putting things in the theme of a film, let the tarot let us explain what the reasons are, what we should be coming out with, what's the energy behind this group. So just take a rough shuffle. Sounds like I'm a magician, isn't it? Take a rough shuffle, pick a card, madam, and we'll take a card out and we'll interpret it. Hopefully we'll get a major arcana, but we may not.
We've got 11 people at the moment, so that's
right. Okay, so what we have is the nine of rods. Okay, the nine of rods is the energy behind this. Well, nine of rods is fire. That's the first thing. So this is consuming. This group has been put together to actually inspire, infuse. And the nine of rods is where some people are getting tired and they're thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I'm just literally hanging on. So the reason we've got together, and for the reason that you guys are in here tonight, working on that theory, working on that basis, is to review tiredness, is to give a new burst of life, a new way of looking at things, that you suddenly think, hey, I've got some answers. I can do this for myself.
Empowerment.
And that's how I would work the tarot. That would be a reading for the group.
Yeah. Oh, so Lorna was just,
and a 9 as well, a 9. So you take the
yes,
take the 9, put the numerology into it. It's teaching.
Yes.
And it's been here before.
Humanitarian.
How many times we already have been before? Because I'm linked with Liz, and you've got people asking about Leos and Aquarius. So we're all linked in together. So this is a soul group revitalization session.
And which is on the eve of equinox.
It is wonderful.
Yeah. So I mean, the equinox energy, we're pushing forward now, aren't we? We're coming into the spring. It's kind of like it's kind of like it's always strange, that kind of like that bulk, that February to the equinox time, where it's kind of like you start to see the new growth, you start to see the new shoots, and then all of a sudden you'll get like snow and ice, and it's just like everything's dead again, or seems dead. But it's like once you get to that equinox energy, it's kind of like there's no holding back now. It's kind of like you can't stop nature. It is like a force of nature. It's not, you can't stop spring now. It's coming. And you know, and oh God, we need a bit of energy, don't we? Like that. We need that kind of like, you can't stop it. We need to go forward. You know, all of this kind of lockdown, you know, backwards, you know, one step forward, two steps back. But the equinox energy is kind of just like, oh, you know, we're forging forward now. So, but so what tarot card represents Leo? Lorna was asking.
Strength.
Strength.
Card of strength. Yes.
It's even got a picture of a lion, hasn't it? So that's
sometimes they're 11 in, depending on what deck you get, they're either 8 or 11, but because Justice will switch over, which is Libra, but it's Leo. It's strength.
But I just want to go back because I there's some people that were chatting about kind of like, oh, we need to, you know, see Gordon together or whatever, but you did do that, didn't you? Because I've had you round at my house, to do parties. We've had numerology parties, haven't we? We've had tarot reading parties, and I suppose it's the same that you can do it on Zoom, can't you? If you just want to do a private Zoom party for, you know, 2, 3, 4 people.
You can. I mean, it depends on what you want to get out of it. I mean, you know, you can also do a mediumistic Zoom session. That's a totally different thing. But if you're looking, firstly, I would really start to explore you know, those of you who want to explore understand the concept, because it's all about empowerment. It's all very well me saying, you know, this is it, but if you can grasp it for yourself, you grow. And you know, the North Node that we've been talking about and the idea of a life partner it is gold dust. It really is. To me, it's the key to the universe, absolute key to the universe. You could do so much with it. So
you need to get this book published.
I know. And the other thing is, there's not anything out there on nodes. There's no books out there on those. There's one, I think, by a lady called Jennifer Stiller, which was written many, many years ago. It's called Soul Astrology, I believe, because this is really what it is. It goes deeper. And it's so simple to learn. The key of it is the simplicity. You don't need to really know a chart. All you need to know is where you're. It's like your own DNA. Once you know your DNA,
Yeah.
you can compare it very fast to anybody you meet.
So what really interests me, of course, being an 11 and being kind of very galactic, is that kind of and I see this with my past life regression work as well, that sort of like that the kind of the more sort of old way of doing past life regression, where you put somebody into a hypnotic trance and they just like visited a past life and maybe they were in Egypt or whatever, and then bring them back and it's like, oh yeah, that was quite nice, wasn't it? What people really want now is to go further than that. They want to go back to their soul group. They want to meet their spirit guides. So it's kind of like that.
This is how you do it.
And and I think it's the same with astrology as well, is that kind of, the old way that we used to do astrology was the kind of like, oh, what's my personality?
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah. But now it's kind of like, well, but I want to know what I'm supposed to be here for. What does that, what does my chart say about that? What are the clues? What are the tools that I've already brought in energetically to this life to be able to open the doors, go put the keys in the locks and open the doors to what my soul wanted to experience here. So again, it's kind of like, I'm just loving how everything is kind of really moving forward, and it's moving forward really fast.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with Liz, let's take Liz for example, because we've got her chart. So you could look, I mean, she has a very, very important chart. If the timing is right, that is a chart of an important person. Now, why do I say that? It's likely in a previous life with her, she's got nodes to do with Leo. So that is to do with royalty, often is royalty, or people of superior position. So it's likely that, and a moon in Libra means she was educated. So her position was one of authority. It could have been, might have been a tyrant of some description. I'm not ruling out because we don't know. You can get a blank.
I'm just loving this because I know.
But there is an element here of, I know my business. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and you go away, little man. We're living in this regal environment. Now you've come into to actually mix with the masses. That's your idea. You're actually going into the community. You want to be part of the collective. You've maybe had an experience perhaps where you sat in your tower and thought, you know what, like a bit like the Queen, and thinking, do you know what, I think the bloke sweeping the street, he seems to have a better time with it than me. He's not getting blasted in the press. He wakes up in the morning, he does his stuff, he goes home, has a beer, and he's really happy. I quite like that idea.
Yeah. What would it feel like to be that? Yeah. So that's
to
what.
Be that. But of course, you're coming in. And it's giving me goosebumps. You're coming in with an air of, well, is that the brush? That's my brush, my good man. Thank you very much. I don't know what she's like. But that's the sort of thing. So some people go, bolshy so and so, isn't she? But I mean, because she's used to power.
Yeah.
And being, being in control or being respected. She's not coming in from an angle where, we're asking bits and pieces, but that's the personality. And then the other people you meet, of course, are going to shape her.
But I hope you don't mind me talking about you, Liz, but I mean, she's like the head of Belle Devane. She's and
well, okay, there you are then. So that's her past. That's her past. She needs to come away from that.
Yeah,
she needs to be the dancer.
Using those strengths, she holds everybody together.
Yeah.
And
it's a natural, because that's why you've come. You see, some people are natural leaders.
Yeah, she is.
If you look at generals, big generals, they're not just born out of the blue. Suddenly, you've gone from a baby into someone that can, like Alexander the Great, or someone can, or Adolf Hitler, they can suddenly go out on a pedestal and command all these people. They've had training before they come into this incarnation, because we can't do it. I mean, people look at Napoleon and say, oh, well, he's a bit of an idiot. Well, you be 5'1" and control half of Europe and see how far you get. There is something there already, and this is already in Liz. She's trying out new ideas, and she's coming from Leo to Aquarius, but possibly moving more back to Leo, because you always gravitate back to the South Node, because that's what you're comfortable with. That's what you know. What you don't know is how to learn the new job, and so we try it, and then sometimes we sit back. Every time we sit back, you're moving backwards.
So I guess the trick into your South Node is that you bring with you the strengths and the gifts from what you've done before,
yes,
like being a leader,
right.
but you're not bringing any of the negative side of it. So you want to be a leader, but you don't want to be a kind of a bolshy, I'll lop your head off if you don't do what I tell you kind of leader. So you bring you bring the strength, but you leave the shadow side away. So is that
Potentially.
Yeah.
It depends on your environment. That's why I say with murderers, often they're from Sagittarius. They've got south nodes. A lot of them got south nodes in Sagittarius, so they come with knowledge, and then they come into Gemini. So it's a bit like being a headmaster at a university, and all of a sudden someone says, well, in this life you're going to be a headmaster of primary school. Well, that's a piece of cake.
Would that
You can take advantage.
But
Do that stand on your head.
Would that mean that really it's kind of like one of the things that you would be learning in this life was to be more humble, I suppose, and kind of like, to learn that teaching primary school children is just
correct.
It's just as important.
Just as important. That's right.
Yeah. But so
it can come out in lots of different ways. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got this. I'll say lucky or unlucky. It's an astrologer's nightmare. I've got twins. So you've got two people born on the same time within a minute of another. One is absolutely besotted with astrology, and one couldn't. What's astrology? I just want to sit doing other things. And they both got the nodes obviously in the same place, but it's how they play it out differently.
Yeah, interesting. Wow, that's really interesting, isn't it? When you get into that, because then you're getting into kind of like every single soul is unique, and every single soul wants to learn a different thing. So it doesn't matter whether you're genetically,
genetics got very little to do with it, and you'll find that as you get older, there are certain crunch points. From memory, I think it's about 44 is one, and about 57, 58. They're critical times when you get these nodal returns. Because it also works, you need to watch carefully where the node is in relation to yours. If with stuff going on in the heavens, it's a little bit more advanced. But you do every 18 years. So it's 1836. You get the node coming back to the same place where it was, and those are often, when you look in your own life, you'll find you get life-changing events. 40s, late 50s, and again
and again that's very clear in your numerology chart as well, isn't it, when you start looking at how your personal year number tallies up with the universal number and all that kind of thing,
all that sort of stuff. So going in more depth, but in general, that's
we're into the last 10 minutes, Gordon. So I mean, I'm happy to stay for
now I've got to go at 10 because I know I started
I just want to go back to this one sort of general question, if I can scroll back up. I don't like this map book. I can't sort of something about, is there anything astrological at the moment that would increase synchronicity? Because there's so much this week, she says, and I can't scroll up to see who actually posted it.
Well, the only thing this week, I think we said that before everybody came in, this week was been a colossally horrible week. Colossally horrible, colossally energetic.
Depending on your perspective.
It is to do with Pisces, and again, if you struggle with things, the tarot can often simplify it. So if you look at Pisces is effectively the moon card. Two fish swimming in different directions. It's crabs crawling out of the river, dogs barking at the moon. We've also had a new moon in Pisces as well. So it's very psychic, it's very delusional. Neptune is involved in it.
So again, the strength of it could be that if you are very tapped in, then you are going to get more psychic, more
you'll get confusion. That's what you'll get.
But the shadow side of that, of course, is the Hall of Mirrors, isn't it? What we were talking about, and there's a lot of that in the news, isn't there?
Hypersensitive time, best time, hide away. Don't talk to many people, and if you hear people talking to you, don't take them what they say is literally, because by the time you get to Monday or Tuesday next week, it'll all have changed and it'll become much clearer.
I hate using the map book, but it's got a better camera.
Yes, it has. I'll sleep well tonight or not at all. No, you should sleep well. Possibly known for being okay. Oh, right, okay. But absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much, Lorna, for that. That's lovely. Is it possible to go full circle in the same lifetime? Well, yes, you can spend many lifetimes trying to get across the pitch.
And that goes back to what we were saying about that. If you're an old soul, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's better than being a young soul. It might just be that you just got stuck on the same.
That's right. I mean, we're talking, The thing is, we were talking about this earlier, you've got to think outside the box. There's no good thinking like a human.
Yeah.
It's not 3D. It's a I don't know how to describe it. If you knew all the answers and could look at something, it's, I suppose, like when you get older and you look back over your life and you think, at the time you can't understand why something's happened, but when you look back you can put it in perspective and say, oh, I can see why that happened, I can see why that was necessary to get me here. And this is really about the astrology, but it can take you many lifetimes. Like some people say about, I want to know about, as you were saying, about the past life. Well, what about the past collective of lives? Because you might have hit this rock, hit this brick wall for several lifetimes, just because you said, well, I want to move on, I'm going to do something else, which you've got the free will. You have free will. I can't stress that enough. It's not, you know, it's not a straightforward road. That's
why being on planet Earth is absolutely so unique. You know, from what I've learned in the kind of multiverse and all the different planets and galactics and everything, you know, that Earth is the place of emotional learning. We've got so many different emotions that we can play with, and we've got free will, and we've got the veil, of course. So no matter how much we know and understand that we are one with everything when we're, you know, out of body, as soon as we incarnate, we forget. You know, and that's part of the game. It's like, what would it feel? How would we react? How would we live our lives if we didn't understand that we were part of everything? What would
you'd be very confused. I mean,
well, we are, aren't we? We're all confused.
Yeah, it's blowing my mind because it's giving you a bit of an understanding. You can see it from a different viewpoint. I mean, it's very interesting what Liz says there. She says, also learning not to be that bolshy in my job, working with challenging men. Well, the sun is the male. That's the quintessential male. Whereas and you've also got Saturn in your chart, which is in Taurus. So, I mean, there's something to do with males that would have caused a problem from a previous life, is what I would say. So it's an ongoing male thing. You might find there's problems with males, right? You know, you're just going to accept it and move on. You know, I don't mean that.
Like bringing it, sort of wrapping it all up in a way. It's kind of like, so what we can get from having delving deep into our charts, whether that's astrology or numerology, is that we're not so blind. We're not so kind of like, you know, just dropped on this planet without any kind of GPS. It's kind of like poking it's like putting the address in the GPS, isn't it? And then sort of like saying, right, you need to go 2 miles down the road and then turn right. And that, you know, rather than just driving around without any sort of roadmap in your head. So, I mean, again, for me personally, you know, it was finding out my life path number and my, you know, what personal year you're in, what's the universal year in, you know, I mean, that was just so enlightening. And I probably wouldn't be sat here, you know, doing this with you tonight if I hadn't have gone to that numerology workshop that you did. So,
but you're just a shining example. And I want to say that, you know, really sincerely, you're a shining example of someone's mind that has expanded in a really great way. It's like you've had a university of education. You've gone away and done this on your own. It's not, you know, I've given you some, but you've done this on your own and you have reached some amazing conclusions. I've followed your work. I've followed you, seen it grow. It's great. Absolutely great. You've taken what you needed from each source and ended up with your own, you know, you're saying therapy, which is, that's you. That is you. And you wouldn't have found that. You've had the key to the door, but you've had to go find it yourself. And I think
but I think what the game changer is learning to follow your joy, follow what brings you, what you're interested in, what draws you is usually what you're supposed to be doing. And it can be that simple, but we're just taught that it's so complicated. So I suppose the easier it's got for me is because the more I've allowed my soul, my higher self to step in, and the more I've kind of like, I've let go of the human self, you know, the neurosis, the limiting beliefs, the cultural programmings, you know, all the limited beliefs and programmings that I've picked up since, you know, since I was a child, you know, and allowing, you know, allowing myself to follow what feels right and what feels good. And that is something that we're not taught. You know, we are not taught to do in this.
No, that's right. Absolutely correct.
But it is absolutely essential, and it's key. So yeah, So yeah, Michelle says, I really needed to be here tonight. Thank you both. This has woken my mind up. That's brilliant. That's exactly what we want to do, isn't it? I mean, that's what lights me up, is kind of like infusing other people. And I'm really about people understanding that you already know it. You already are perfect. You're already brilliant. It's just that you've just got to believe in yourself, and it's all about, you know, showing you how to empower yourself, because we're never ever a victim of anything. You know, our souls are amazingly powerful, and we powerful co-creators. But until we understand that we co-create with the universe by energy and vibration and frequency, and, you know, this is all law of attraction, all that kind of thing, until we understand that we are an active participant in our life's creation, then we just kind of bumble along, you know, and just constantly falling over obstacles and things, and into situations that, you know, that we don't need to go into. They're only there to really kind of almost like slap us onto the right track, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I got to wrap up because I got to go. But if anybody is interested, please let me know, either through the group or ask through Angie. If you want to, you know, if you're interested in courses to learn this, then
are you able to just type in your can you type in your, have you got a website, Gordon?
Not anymore. No, I just use Facebook.
So it's just Facebook. Okay.
Simply Gordon Robert or Gordon Robert Spirit Medium. That's you'll find the page, but or sure. friend request, or talk about the Soul Collective, or go through Angie.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if everybody goes back into the event, it'll be there. But I'll post it in there anyway, just in case it isn't. But I did add you as a co-host, but I don't know whether you accepted your co-host.
I thought I did, but obviously I can't. It doesn't matter, you know. It's done. Hopefully, you're all had a good evening, and it's worked for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gordon. And you know, do you want to do this again if people want to?
I would do, yeah. I mean, it takes a while to sink in, and you can repeat it again and again. I mean, to me, it's simplistic because I've sort of spent a long time doing it, but I know when I've done courses, we've had to go very, very slowly and logically and work on.
Well, maybe you could think, you know, maybe you could do an online numerology course.
Yeah, that's it. Online, or you know, all the astrology, but he's working it very slowly through. I know it takes an awful amount, but you know, the notes are all, we've done all the notes, because I do these all the time. But yeah, it can prove very possible. But it's down to demand, really. But,
so people are saying they've loved it. Yeah, huge thanks this evening. It's been really informative and interesting from Helen. Hi, Helen. Yeah, it's lovely to see you, and thanks for joining us, everybody. And yeah, we'll do it again. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Gordon, for taking time out.
We'll see you all. I am around the collective, so
Well, I think Minty's got you on to become an approved reader when he starts taking on more readers. I think we're waiting for waiting for the membership to go up a bit more before we take on more.
Yeah. No problem. It's good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
So thanks, everybody. Does anybody want to ask any questions before I kind of close everything, or are you all good? Good. Cool. Okay. Thanks for coming, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. It's quite late now, so yeah, I'll see you in the Soul Collective soon. And do message me if you need to, you know, either through my Facebook page or sacredsoundtherapy.com.